talk about how we met?
Yes.
Okay. So I joined SCBWI in 2012, but I didn't take the leap into going to a conference until 2013. And I think it was the Thursday night before the conference began. I went out to eat, and we ended up sitting next to each other. And so Corinna's the first person I met at SCBWI, and I feel like it was meant to be magical or something.
Totally. Well, because we had what I remember is that we met somewhere before that at the or we bumped into each other or something.
Maybe in the lobby or something, right?
Because we figured out that you were from Olympia and that I lived in Grays Harbor, and I had friends in Olympia, and we figured out that we knew people in common,
which is pretty.
Which is
in Olympia, you know, almost everybody.
Yeah. But still, it was like, well, living in Grays Harbor, there was very few people that I knew that had those kinds of connections between cities, and so it felt kind of cool. And then we bumped into each other at the restaurant. It was like, so then we got to more chatting, and we realized that we knew even more people or whatever, and then we realized that we had kids the same age, and then fast forward, my family and I left Grays Harbor, moved up to Luyken, north of Seattle, and we spent a few years there.
And we kept in touch.
We kept in touch, right?
And like I saw an earlier version of My Heart.
You were saying like more than 5 years ago?
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we kept in touch a little bit, you know, and then online makes it a little easier as well. And then you decided you guys were going to move down here.
And we moved to Olympia.
Right, and not only did she move to Olympia, she moved into my neighborhood, and our kids go to school together. And this year they're in the same class.
So finally, year 3, they're finally in the same class. They're both in 3rd grade, I think, and
So it's been fun to watch Corinna's career take off from when I first met you in your first portfolio that I saw, and it was before you had an agent and before.
It was my first conference too. It was my first.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I had gone to an SCBWI conference like back in 2003 or something, before they even did it was a one-day thing at the university, and I don't remember very much for it. I mean, there were years and years and years, and then so that was really my first conference with the overnight with the setup the way they do it now, and so we met at our first conference.
Right.
And I've gotten to watch you get an agent and your first book deal now.
Yeah.
And so we get to cheer each other on.
Yeah, it's really great, and
really
we live nearby, and it's just awesome to have that resource, not only SCBWI and the resources that provides, but also making those personal connections. Probably the best part.
Yeah.
Of the organization, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's so fun to have seen a draft like I have seen with your books too, and you see something that a friend does and you love it, and then you see it change and you see it grow, and you cheer it on, and it's such a long journey. It really is a long journey from that stage to it actually being a book, but you feel like you were behind the scenes, you know, the whole time.
Yeah.
It's super special. And SCBWI has given us that.
Yeah.
Who's going to start? You're going to start.
Oh, well, so the question was about in writing or in making a book, do the images come first or the writing? For me, the images always come first, because I'm an artist, and I've always been focused on visual. When I think of a story idea, the first thing that comes into my mind is usually the illustrations. Maybe there'll be one image that is interesting to me, and it can build a story around that. But the writing is definitely something that I'm working on, and I'm not as confident with.
That idea of the one, like an image that's your cornerstone or your keystone or something, that happens for me too. Even like for me, actually, each book has been a little different, and sometimes the words comes first. With the Book of Mistakes, I actually had the first several pages of words just popped into my head, and actually and then the images came with the words after that, like all simultaneously. And then with My Heart, I actually wrote the entire poem first before I added any pictures. But then what starts to happen for me is that there'll be like one image that's super interesting, and it's my way in. It's how I can find my way into the rest of the story.
But that may not actually end up in the story
Totally.
in the end, because it's just your way in, but it might not work as you progress.
Well, and sometimes for me, what I find is that the image is so important to me that gives me this in that I find is often really exciting too. Like I get excited when I look at it. It's often not very interesting to other people. Like sometimes it's kind of ugly or it's kind of weird, but I can see there's something in it that is different or exciting, or I'm curious about it in some way. And I've started to keep those images from each of my books, because you go back and you look, you can see the seed of the book in it, but in no way did the image actually make it into the book.
But you started out in college studying writing, correct?
I did more writing, studied more writing in college than I did art. And so, but to me they're a little separate too. Like when I start with an image, sometimes words will come with it, but when I start with just the words, sometimes they come completely on their own and they're almost separate. And then I almost have to go back and put on my art brain and approach it almost as if I'm illustrating my own story. But then what's really cool for me about doing the words and pictures myself, even when they are a little bit separate that way, is that when I start to revise, because I'm in charge of both, I can be ruthless and I can cut out all kinds of things in the text that I can't necessarily cut out if I'm illustrating someone else's text. And so there's a lot that ends up on the floor, just cut. And I love that as an author illustrator, that you get to do that. You can really be like, oh no, the pictures are saying this and this and this.
Right, you don't need to do it. Have the words as well.
Yeah, and I think you're less attached to the words because you're also responsible for the picture, so it's a little easier to let them go, maybe. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still working on
Well, you're doing
final book, but I have written and illustrated.
Yeah, and you're a fantastic writer. Yeah, you are.
Thanks.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's for me, the process feels separate in that when I'm thinking about a story and need to write, it's sort of like I have to clear everything out of the way and just sit down at the computer and write, and it does feel like it's using a different part of my brain. And I've been pleasantly surprised on those days how much I enjoy it, because I kind of been coming to writing reluctantly, but yeah, I'm finding it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's its own little dance. Yeah.